Greetings, comrades. I'm here to do, for the third time, hopefully get it right this time, a review of the book I finished on Friday for the Read Kids Lit month, for the month of November, started by Words of a Reader. You can check out her channel on YouTube, and she has a little video on there explaining it. And mostly it's just about we're all getting together to read children's literature this month. So the book that I'm doing a review on is called The Glass Sentence by S.E. Grove. It's an adventure story. I'm pretty much into escapist kind of literature. Not that I don't read other kinds of literature or children's literature as well, but that's what I enjoy the most. It's a pretty hefty book. It's almost 500 pages. So, it's a good long adventure story. You can take some time reading it. I mean, 500 pages. Obviously, it's a children's book. The print's a little bit larger and spacing is more, but it's still a pretty long story. The premise of the book is that there was something happened in approximately the year 1800 as related to the time that the protagonist lives in. Now, the book takes place in like the early 1890s. In about 1800, this thing happened called the Great Disruption, whereas all over the world, all different locations were thrown into different time periods. So, it's the 1800s in the eastern seaboard of the United States. Canada doesn't exist. It's all frozen, so it must be in maybe in the Ice Age. England is in the medieval period. So there are people then who go out to map the world in a sense. They're called cartologers, but they're not mapping the land. They're mapping the time periods that all the land now, the different areas now exist in. And the protagonist of the book is a young girl whose parents were cartologers, and when she was about 3, they got a message from a friend of theirs who was in some trouble and needed help, and they went off to help him, and they never returned. So she's lived with her uncle, who is also a cartologer, who teaches for the last 10 years or so. Well, he gets kidnapped one day by someone who wants him to help her find a special map that somewhere, allegedly, the myth is in the world, there is a map that shows everything, all the different time periods, everything. And she thinks that he has the tool, this one special glass map, that will undo what was done, that will put everything back to one time period. The problem is it's going to be the villain's time period, which is not the one that the person lives in that she's trying to get to help her. So of course it would wipe out everybody he knows, so he's not having it. Anyway, he doesn't really help her or go along with this plan. But his niece, that he has raised, finds a message telling her to go find such and such a person. So she goes to find this person, and she has a young boy that she has met that goes along with her and helps her, who is from, he's not from Boston, he's from the wild areas out west. He goes along with her, and they trek from Boston down to Central or South America to try and find this person, and they have adventures along the way. And in the meantime, the villainess has discovered that this map that she thinks will help restore the world back to one time period, that the young girl has it, so she sends her henchmen after them. So they have different adventures trying to elude them. They meet up with some pirates and various things like that along the way. So it's definitely an adventure story, but it's a really interesting premise, I thought, of having the world thrown into different time periods. About 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through the book, I began to have a hard time picking it up and reading it again, and it took me a few days to pick it back up and actually finish it. I wasn't really sure why that was. The stories are good. There are some interesting stories within stories in the book that are well told, and the writing is fine, and the adventure is fine. And I think I finally came to the conclusion that the problem was with the characters. I didn't have any affinity for the characters. The pirates were pretty interesting, I thought, but the protagonist, the other main people in the story, I just didn't really connect to. A lot of things happened to them and around them and things like that, but I just never really got a sense of depth about them. I don't know. It's hard to describe. The writing told about the characters, but it wasn't really revealed in such a way as that you felt like you were getting to know the characters. I don't know. I know that's really nebulous, and I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I'm having a hard time articulating it. Probably harder than the author, he or she, had writing it. I just didn't identify with the characters, and I think that's what kept me from, made it a little bit of a struggle to finish the book. But it's a good story. It's a good adventure. If you like adventure stories and escapist kind of things, I would recommend it. I would give it at least 3.5 stars. That's. I think it's a worthy book for that, and it's worth the time to read. And it was a fun read, and it was an interesting premise and an interesting story. So, anyway, I just didn't identify or couldn't relate to the characters very much. So that's my review of the book. Again, it's called The Glass Sentence. It's fairly new, out by S.E. Grove. So check out your local independent bookstore. If you like adventure fiction, escapist kind of fiction, and children's literature, I think you'd probably enjoy it. So that's it for that. Happy trails and happy reading.